The entity is amplifying helicopter activity. This is Kilsa, who's group stalking on a communication device in her car. This is for purposes of crossing path, and the entity is amplifying helicopter activity. So I want to be clear, you can't see any helicopter, but the entity is engaging in the pattern of maintaining audible activity. This is the pattern of maintaining presence. This is Kilsa. That's a third-party group stalker that lives at a crime scene. She's going to federal prison. This is called amplification. This is what the entity is doing, is targeting me inside of my apartment while keeping me under surveillance all weekend. This is demonic. While you're looking at the distance, creating what is amplification, that is the inability to normally hear. The ability to hear it is speaking to what is a demonic method of targeting. You also know that those are demons, and that's affiliation with what is a corrupt law enforcement agency. That is literally the identification of a demon who's stalking in a helicopter, while that which is not the sun is nowhere near Ontario, California, any state or brothers. While the light source is directly over my head, and that's the identification of a demon who's engaged in Title 18 criminal conduct and crossing a path. While the entity's targeting me with helicopter, a group stalker is maintaining presence by sitting in their car. All 59 units here are group stalking, and Kilsa is going to be deported back to her country of origin after she's federally prosecuted for engaging in state terrorism with the entity that is using helicopters to engage in what is not only federal group stalking and monitoring, but remember, this is occurring in the workplace. I'm also going to prosecute speaker companies, the people of the state that are facilitating state in the workplace. And that's also why speaker companies personnel, the employees themselves, are engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. That's not a coincidence. While they're exhibiting the same demon possession, acting in concert with the same corrupt entity in helicopters, doing so, as I've shown you, the same exact non-exception of the behavioral pattern, that's P.O.C. Those are demons. Okay, I walked into my office. They're great distance out there. You can't even see them, but yet you can hear the helicopter in the office. That lets you know everyone that surrounds you and the criminal system that you're subject to. And this is also documentation of impunity. So let me be clear. When the entity is sitting in federal court and that federal prosecution is individualized by name, the impunity with which the entity is group stalking and continuously monitoring while you are exposing them, meaning you're enforcing your rights, and the entity is still engaging in that conduct, which is exactly what Dominic Choi and Los Angeles Police Department represent. Speaking, by the way, to what the Ontario Fire Department, the Ontario Police Department, and American Medical Response were engaging in, that same exact system is underway in LA, where there is no shared natural environment. This is what is going to be the substance of that prosecution. This is foolishness. And this is a defeated entity, by the way. This is Satan that's defeated. Flying over, right over my head. This is the entity that is engaged in what is surveillance, openly engaging in a criminal entity sought to engage in secretly, tries to engage in what is defaming an American citizen that they are targeting in psychotic methods, which reveals the personality defect, the public safety concern, while they're pacing around engaging in surveillance of an innocent American citizen for no legitimate purpose, having no legal grounds to do so whatsoever. And when they're exposed, they provide more evidence against its entity, its criminal co-conspirator, which includes Kilsa. All right, that's relevant positioning as I walk into my office, and you know that she's a group stalker and she's a demon in concert with those demons that are pacing around in helicopter, amplifying the sound of those helicopters in a manner that I should not be able to hear under a light source that's not possibly the sun, and in doing so in plain sight, flying directly over my head. You know why the entity engages in that? Because it's defeated. That's what Satan engages in, which is a threat to the lives of American citizens. They engage in more life-threatening conduct when they are caught red-handed in what is unthinkable criminal activity, exposing public corruption. And that's why all 59 units documented engage in ongoing malice and impunity, stalking in your face in concert with law enforcement, showing the psychopath that you are, group stalking in plain sight as though someone is deceived about what you are and what you're doing, while all of the environment is present and the entity is engaged in what is ongoing psychotic stalking in a helicopter and maintaining presence there. That ongoing persistence is exactly what a federal judge is going to review, and it will be unmistakable about what it is. And Lucy Santos is going to federal prison for this impunity that she's being documented engaging in right now. That's how an entity is acting in concert on a ceaseless basis, and nobody's work schedule is any exception to that. The entity is maintaining presence as an entire community, as an entire state. Okay, and now that I'm in LA, the criminal system is underway. Okay, not missing a beat. As I go to Ontario, as I go to Anaheim, as I go to Corona, as I go to any city in the state of California, they're monitoring. And it's speaking to what is demonic activity, and that is legally relevant for what is going to be prosecuted as what is America's version of terrorism. And the people of the state, those that have been granted the privilege to be here, like Kilsa, she's out of here. And no federal judge is going to think twice about it. She's out of here. This is documentation of criminal presence and activity creation while helicopters are pacing around me, threatening my life. This is an entity that's criminally monitoring and keeping you under surveillance in concert. The entity relies on their presence around you. That's why they're living at a crime scene. All 59 units, every single last one of them are going to federal prison. It is currently, by the way, it's 1:16 p.m. As you'll recall, this same time of year where Stephanie Ortiz engaged in criminal summoning. At 1:17 p.m., I step out of the 8437 Sierra Avenue at the Fontana Lewis Library, and while I'm at that Fontana Lewis Library where I was present in the morning on that day and never left the Fontana Lewis Library, there's no provision that the sun would ever be present in the same position over my head while it's remaining over my head on April 29, 2022. In addition to that, remember, I didn't just document criminal summoning, all right, and terrorism and a threat to engage in kidnapping by the entity that's stalking you. That's what the Fontana Police Department are. They're stalking, and then P.O.C. calls them that are stalking you to come remove you from the location where they're sexually violating you, monitoring you in the bathroom because they're hostile to your exposing and enforcing your rights. That's the entity that engaged in criminal summoning. And then on top of that, I went to the police department on that day at 1:45 p.m. where the entity is keeping a light source here that's not possibly the sun, because this is the same property where it's a documented sunrise and a sunset in alignment to me. At 1:45 p.m. there not possibly would be a sun here because it's remaining over my head in the same location, in the same manner, in its zenith, if you will, while I'm standing in front of the Fontana Police Department, which are those demons that are stalking in a helicopter. It's the same exact corrupt entity, the same exact criminal system, while a demon like P.O.C. is summoning that entity that's keeping you under surveillance, and then those psychopaths are together engaging in what is the criminal act of what is subjecting everybody to federal prison that was documented engaged in criminal summoning, and it includes Stephanie Ortiz. She's going to federal prison because she's summoning this that's threatening your life, stalking you, terrorizing you in helicopters, and then summoning them while you're documenting their criminal activity. Let me be clear. What's the definition of that? That's a psychopath who is going to be subject to regular, routine mental examinations and federal prison. And then you're going to literally permeate their lives because you're going to neutralize every threat that they pose. There is no sun that's over the Fontana Lewis Library at 8437 Sierra Avenue. Fontana Lewis Library is the grounds of what is a crime scene, and I heavily documented that venue, that entire area. Again, another example where there is no provision for ever to be not only a sun, but the sun's directly over my head. It's not like I'm capturing it over there at a great distance over one of the courts over there. It's right over me. This is the pattern of conduct. And P.O.C.'s going to federal prison. This is a demon-possessed group stalker. Okay, their race, their age, their physical handicap is legally irrelevant. Crouching over on a cane is the same exact light activity in concert with the same exact corrupt entity that uses helicopters in the state of California to engage terrorism. Terrorism. This is the same demon-possessed agency that flew for 47 minutes in a circle in front of my apartment. And you know who they're acting in concert with? These demons. This whole population, let me be clear. In the population of that race this particular heritage, because as you've seen, Satan will use a black person, Satan will use a white person, Satan will use a pink person, Satan will use a brown person. Satan is using all of the above because Satan has no specific allegiance to any race, contrary to what the demon possessed wants you to focus on. It's a distraction. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is flying all around, targeting me, and this is foolish conduct to its own demise. The entire hillside. I'm going to run this tape because they're all engaged in terrorism together. They're all engaged in federal stalking that you see her engaging in right in front of me as I walk into my office. That's a psychopath that's waving high. That's light activity creation while she's waving, while the light source is over me. Okay, that's a demon. Understand the malice of the entity that's engaged in criminal conduct. The entity is acting in concert with LAPD, threatening your life, and then engaging in what is a friendly gesture. That's the psychological torture. That's what's designed to psychologically torture you while they're threatening your life. That's the same entity that engages in criminal summoning like Stephanie Ortiz is. That's what Stephanie Ortiz is, a third-party group stalker, summoning them, acting with impunity. That's why they're done with the medical profession, the threat that they pose to the public, having no business in that profession whatsoever, acting with malice. And that demon is engaging in an act of retaliation because he knows exactly what I exposed about him. And that's fine. He's going to federal prison. He can move wherever he wants. He's going to federal prison. And he will never, if he's already in the medical field, he will be promptly removed from it permanently. It is currently, and I'm referencing Bennett Gossiker, who's crossing path. You know that that's intentional, and you know also that it's retaliatory because of the specific environment. The entity is keeping you under surveillance, and those demons engage in the same exact self-destructive pattern. This is the public safety concern. So now when the government is caught engaging in that criminal system, you know what that corrupt government does? That corrupt government engages in more of that criminal activity, engages in more of that sexual violence, engages in more of that threatening, intimidating conduct. Let me be clear. It's occurring in the workplace. Speaker companies specifically is the one that's going to pay the bill for that. You're going to drain the pockets, and that company is not going to survive. It's not going to survive. You cannot even measure being subject to this in the workplace. And what LAPD is doing, what Bennett Gossaker is doing, which represents nothing other than the people of the state. Remember, this is workplace terrorism, harassment, and sexual violence by an entity. The entity, all the entity that's group stalking me comes onto the ground to participate in that criminal system. So every demon driving an Amazon Prime vehicle, every demon crossing paths and coming on waste management, engaging in emptying the trash, they're engaged in the elements of monitoring. State surveillance is underway while I am on the job. That entity is engaged in workplace harassment, terrorism, and sexual violence together. While speaker companies, the entity is employing me. Speaker companies' pockets is going to be drained for that. That's terrorism that they're sponsoring. They're facilitating it. That's also why speaker companies' employees are facilitating that criminal conduct. That's not a coincidence. That's the pattern of conduct. So you're going to prosecute civilly and criminally for being subject to that unlawful threat to your life and safety and that psychological harm and emotional distress that you're encountering in the workplace. Okay, that is an unfathomable level. That's an intolerable level. A level never contemplated again by federal law with regard to what is a hostile work environment. Okay, this is all occurring in the workplace. It is currently 1:22 p.m. Like I said, there's no sun over the Fontana Police Department at 1:45. There's no sun over the demons that are of the Fontana Police Department on April 29, 2022, where they followed me. And that's exactly what group stalking is. The entity is following you as a group, and that's evidenced by the light source, not the sun. Okay, and that's how you're pointing that out. Well, that's the sun over your head. No, that's not possibly the sun that's remaining over me outside of this apartment building, rising and setting at the address. And then you're going to recall what I documented on April 29, 2022. The sun is nowhere near Los Angeles, nor can that possibly ever be the case in that same position, even down to the same time, because I am at the 7-Eleven at Juniper and Arrow. And I'm on that same shoot, by the way, documenting Officer McMillan of the Fontana Police Department, a demon that knows that he's being documented, affiliated with a corrupt law enforcement agency that's engaged in state surveillance. And that light source is over my head while I'm standing at Sierra and Arrow at 9 o'clock in the morning. That same corrupt law enforcement agency at that same block at 2:47 in the afternoon, after Stephanie Ortiz engaged in criminal summoning. And then you have the entity engaging in what is open terrorism on video, literally cycling around in helicopter. The more that that's evidence on its face. No federal judge, no court. That this is the federal government. So we're at the point now. We're beyond establishing the P.O.C. is a fact. State terrorism is a fact. Now you're looking at the public safety concern. That's where we're at in the analysis now. Now you're looking at the public safety concern. Now you're looking at why they go to federal prison. Everything that I've already advocated. You understand the pattern of conduct. Why do I suggest years in federal prison? Why routine mental examinations? Why permanent removal from law enforcement or whatever field where you pose a threat to the public? Because of exactly what you just saw. All right. Not only are they engaged in terrorism as an entity, a corrupt government that is using demon-possessed group stalkers that are in the medical field. That is a horrible sight, a horrible thought. The notion of a Bennett Gossaker cannot be removed soon enough, and that's exactly what's going to happen. And anyone else that intends to go into the medical field after that credit check and being a group stalker engaging in state terrorism is exactly what shall disqualify you from the medical field, from the legal profession. Just like you see Bennett Gossaker engaging in. So let this be a lesson, because he's done with the medical field. He won't even be mopping the floors in any hospital. This entity is engaging in what is ongoing continuous terrorism while they are already beyond the point of being caught, engaging in a secret monitoring system, engaging in a secret crime. This is the secret society. So what does the entity do? It engages in more of that criminal conduct. Nobody is reasonably questioned under any circumstances what the LAPD just exhibited to the world. You see them engaging in terrorism. First of all, it's terrorism by amplification. Amplification is speaking to targeting. There's no possible way I can hear a helicopter while I'm inside of my office. You saw me walk out. There's still no helicopter, but yet I'm still hearing helicopter activity. And then after a prolonged period, then you see a helicopter in the distance. There's no human way that I would be able to hear that. This is not being clairvoyant. The entity is targeting, and they're targeting demonic methods in the same way. It is as demonic. It is as indicative of targeting as that light source, which is not possibly the sun, that's over me. Not only based on the analysis of what is the juxtaposition of another crime scene, i.e. the Fontana Lewis Library, the 7-Eleven down the street from the Fontana Lewis Library. Okay, a timeline that is inconsistent with that light source being over my head, as you saw on video, at 11:09 in the morning, and it's still here. It's never going to be over the Fontana Lewis Library, but that's exactly what I documented. Same time of year analysis, even down to the same time of day. And what else are you seeing? You're seeing the hallmark. A psychopath that's stalking you, monitoring you, looking to the left and the right, talking on their phone like they're doing something else. And meanwhile, they're listening to everything that you are saying. That's a mental illness. That's a psychopath. That's a terrorist. That's lawlessness. The federal government shall not, and under any circumstances, hesitate to remove that threat to the American lives. You're talking about the lives to the American citizens in this country. Those are the ones that have access, by the way, to armored vehicles and helicopters. You see how they're abusing and misusing that. That's a threat to American citizens in this country. The people of the state are a threat, terrorizing American citizens, threatening your liberty while they are criminally summoning those demons that are stalking you in helicopters. And then they do it with their back to you. The cowardice is just unheard of and despicable. It's nauseating. Okay? That was demonic activity. That's the demon possessed. That's the demon possessed. And all of that is speaking to what is the light source that's directly over me. And all of those demons were engaging in the criminal system together. And that passive aggressive psychopath, Bennett Gossaker, literally in this video has demonstrated how he is unfit for the medical profession, by the way. That's what's exhibited through that personality defect. Remember all of the criminal act. That includes the crime scene, which is speaking directly to what is the mindset. Because of the targeted that you are identifying through the environment, you know exactly what you're doing and who you're doing it to, and you do it with knowledge with regard to what that target individual is doing. And it's also speaking to what is an act of retaliation. That particular demon, Bennett Gossaker, knows exactly what was documented about him, and he's engaging in what is a self-destructive act of retaliation. That's directly relevant to his federal prosecution. That's directly relevant to the prosecution of the people of the state, because that demon, Bennett Gossaker, who was unfit for the medical profession by virtue of being a terrorist and a heavily documented perpetual sex offender, engaging in that criminal conduct with knowledge of the fact that an American citizen is enforcing their rights. All right. He engages in that criminal act again by crossing paths. This is relevant. Remember, the demons, they want to do this. These are psychopaths. The demon possessed, the affect of demon possession, the spirit of Satan on a person. And it's legally relevant because I'm prosecuting. So the personality effect on a human being that has the spirit of Satan on them, it creates a psychopath. It creates literally a dysfunctional, a defect in that person. And it's also regarding what is malice that demon-possessed person wants to conceal, hates your guts, is obsessed with you, doesn't have a reason in the natural to feel that way or to act in that way. But that's exactly what it is, and it's exhibited through the criminal conduct. The targeting is maliciously hidden, if you will, but it's hidden in plain sight. The light source, the engineered light, the concerted conduct with the entity that's heavily documented group stalking by the state, doing so by police departments, fire departments, ambulance personnel, and the entity that uses helicopters. In California, they're group stalking, they're engaging in state terrorism using helicopters. That is how you know what is an act of retaliation to his own demise, Bennett Gossaker. Okay, revealing a psychopath, a passive-aggressive one, a psychotic one. That's a threat to your life. That's relevant to psychological torture while they look to the left and right and a demon is focused on you. And no one is fooled by that. The entity is flying circles around me and helicopters. That's revealing the mental illness. And the fact that you're stalking an American citizen in a helicopter, that's revealing your mental illness. This is what is constituting an entire police force, the LAPD. And I've documented them before. The Ontario Police Department and the Fontana Police Department and the Montclair Police Department, the Chino Police Department, the San Bernardino Police Department. It's not just that demon that's flying that helicopter. It's not just those men that are in that fire truck. It's the revealing what is a matter of public corruption. Okay, so it is currently 1:30 p.m. That was a very highly illustrative video captured for purposes of prosecution of an entire government. The state of California is being prosecuted. I'm going to prosecute a company by name, not just the employer. That is a third party, an illegitimate business engaging in what is the malicious and corrupt misuse of a company for purposes of state terrorism. Speaker Companies and Todd Speaker is not ignorant of the fact that I'm subject to surveillance. This entity sought to target me and discard me. That's why a government engages in group stalking you, by the way. They intend to target you. They have put literally a hit out on your life, if you will, and they intend to control the narrative of your life while secretly, maliciously, that is doing so, trying to make that targeted individual appear as though they're suffering from some mental incapacity when you're seeing how the demon possessed are targeting you. Okay. And that's the reality of what is federal group stalking and monitoring and the malicious purpose of it. Everybody that lives at this property, including Bennett Gossaker and Kilsa, are going to federal prison. Bennett Gossaker can pack up and move wherever he wants. The long arm of the federal law is going to reach out and touch him, like I said, with a federal prosecution, and he's going to federal prison. And that impunity that he acts with in concert with the people of the state, the entirety of that body. Group stalking represents the whole group, not that individual. That individual is acting on behalf of the state. The state is using the people. The people are acting individually on behalf of that whole entity. What the people say in the shoes of the state. What the people do on behalf and in concert with the state. That's why you see concerted conduct stalking in a helicopter, light source over me, engineer lights surrounding me, the people of the state acting in concert. All right. This is ongoing ambush-like conduct, and this terrorism, this intimidation, this harassment, this hostile environment that is created by a corrupt government and entity. What am I speaking to? This is harassment in the workplace that is never before contemplated under federal law. And it's an independent and distinct grounds for recovery for that ordinary target individual, in addition to what is a criminal prosecution for facilitating and engaging in federal group stalking and monitoring. And that includes on the venue of the internet in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. And I mean, everybody that works for Speaker Companies is going to be prosecuted for that. And those that act in concert with that corrupt law enforcement agency, that demon-infected agency, all right, that highly malicious and psychotic threat to the public, which is what the Los Angeles Police Department represent. And that's based on their criminal conduct, which is documented as a matter of concrete evidence, not hyperbolic commentary. You're looking at it yourself. They are going to federal prison acting in concert with that government that's threatening your life and your safety like that. They're going to federal prison. All right. It is currently 1:33 p.m. All right. And that's just the ordinary criminal conduct, the ordinary terrorism that you're subject to in the workplace. All right. And that is what this federal prosecution and the federal policies that I advocate in order to directly address, in addition to what the federal government already has at its disposal. Like I said, RICO charges are also relevant. I've also acknowledged Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. But you also have additional policies that I speak to: criminal summoning, understanding the criminal conduct that an entity is engaging in, the ways in which it's engaging in it, and directly addressing those acts of terrorism while it's acting in concert with the people of the state. Again, it is 1:33 p.m. and this is P.O.C.